nurse, and my role is a little bit, it's not quite the same as that of a bedside
Well, good. Like a different perspective
nurse, so
is great.
I can probably give you a little bit of different perspective in my role and how I work with
Okay,
the nurses
fantastic.
here
Well,
just
let's
so that you
start out
guys-
with just the everyday, like what do you do on a daily basis to help reduce or prevent CLADs?
Well, key
Or
for-
CLABSIs, sorry, not CLADs.
Well, key for me, I came to the cardiac center about 2 years ago. So what that meant for me is that these guys already had a very good system in place to maintain their low or no CLABSI rate. So I needed to make myself aware of that and aware of what my expectations were coming new into the cardiac center, and having an understanding that the RNs here owned the line, and that we really did discuss it every day on rounds and discuss how and why we were going to access it. And I needed to make sure that I was on the same page as they were and be able to share that same insight with other people that came into the cardiac center or other members of the team. So I needed to have that kind of understanding. I also needed to know what the expectations were of me and my role, and that is knowing what patients have lines, taking part in the twice weekly rounding that our team does to make sure that the lines have the appropriate securement in place and that they're dressed appropriately. And also too, that the staff knew who I was and that I was somebody that they could call if they had any questions or concerns about a line and whether or not a dressing was still intact or whether or not a site looked good or bad. So a lot of times I'm one of, the people that they can call to say, I'm not sure about this line, can you look at it with me and can we figure out where to go from here?
And that speaks to kind of how the team pulls together for the
Yes.
common goal.
Yes.
So let's see. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing too is also advice. So we talked about, are there any other teamwork aspects or just ways you come together that maybe are unique that keep you informed and communicating
I think that
well?
there's a ton of teamwork, and in my role I have, I guess, what's the right word? I have maybe the luxury of also having an idea of what's going on outside of the center as well, too. So it's keeping an eye on the trends that are happening throughout the house, but also knowing what's going on here. And a lot of people ask us what we do in order to keep our rates so low in the CCU. So when people come to me asking that question, what is it that you guys do? I'm able to say that we adjust lines every day on rounds. We try to get them out as soon as we can, and that the nursing staff here really do feel a true sense of ownership of that line, because a lot of the care that we give that impacts those lines is something that a nurse can do. So I think that the team here has really more of a comfort level with nurses being owners, because a lot of it is really centered around care that a nurse gives. So really working with people to encourage their staff to feel that same sense of ownership, because a lot of times it's hard to find your voice and stand up to something and say this is something that a nurse should own. But there are many things here that nurses can own, and line care is one of them.
Do you find there's any resistance to that, or just ways you have to educate that this,
I haven't seen it here. I think that the key is really finding the right way to speak with your team members and get them on the same page. I can't speak to what it took here in the center to get our team to buy into the fact of having the nursing staff own the lines, because like I said, this was already in place when I came up here about 2 years ago. But whatever it took, it stuck, and it really is a part of who we are here, in the center. So our docs, our flocks, people that come on board really do embrace the way that we care for our lines here.
That's phenomenal.
I think it just takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Lee, that's really, really great. I was wondering how you partner with families in CLABSI reduction work.
Well, it's key to come in and explain to them why we do certain things that we do, why we use a certain type of dressing, why we might choose to put AquaGuard on a fem line. sometimes it just seems like a big hassle and a big pain in the neck to have to change dressing when a dressing needs to be changed. So I think that it's really, not being afraid to share with, a patient or the people that are with them that, we are concerned about line infection here. We're going to do our best to make sure that your child doesn't get one, but these are the reasons why they're at increased risk. And if one of those reasons is because they need to have AquaGuard in place, or the dressing has become soiled or not longer intact, that it's really better to change this now as opposed to waiting until later, because every second counts.
That education for the family is amazing, because I know they're upset, or they might not have slept for a long time. They're worried about their child, and then every bit of interaction.
Dressing, so who cares? It's just tape. Can't you just slap something over it and come back later? And we could, but if we did that, then that is a higher chance of their child getting a line infection. We don't want that. So I think that once you share all of this with them and give them a chance to really think about what really is all out on the table. They come in here, and they don't they know, the kids know, their moms and dads know, the people that care for them know that we're going to do everything that we have to do to take care of them. So it doesn't cross their mind to think, oh, my kid's going to get an infection, because, they're here to be taken care of, and, they put all of their faith and trust in us, but it's up to us to let them know what could happen.
Indeed.
One other question. I'm sorry. Do a majority of your patients have central lines? Do you care for a large number of patients with central lines?
Well, I most of the time work in the CICU, which is more of a step-down style unit, so we don't see really a high number of patients with central lines, as opposed to, for example, the CICU or the PICU or the NICU. But we do have patients that have lines in place, and they have them in place for very specific and crucial reasons. So when we do see them, it's all hands on deck. Also, too, a lot of our staff in the CCU sometimes cross-train or float over to the CICU. There are certain groups of staff that do that. So in those cases, when they are seeing those kids in the CICU, it's great for them to already have that mindset of, this is how we take care of lines, because, as it's done in the CCU, they'll actually transfer that care over to the CICU as well, too, or even if they float to another inpatient unit when that happens.
And that brings up an interesting point. So you have your team, and you're very cohesive. You have that communication, the process down. So when there's transfers or other units that are involved, do you communicate with them, or so? What if the process is different there, and they come over here, and so the expectation for the family might change?
Right. So then, when somebody floats into the CCU or that sort of thing, we actually have a tip. We have a tip sheet with all of our written guidelines on it, and it has our line care expectations on it. And with that, with that being said, I don't want to give the impression that we do things in a different way in the CCU, because we don't. The same standard of care is followed in the CICU as well, too, with lines being addressed every day on rounds and issues with the dressing and that sort of thing, nurses trying to own the lines. But the patients are in the ICU for other reasons and different reasons, and we haven't quite yet figured out what is making them tick in terms of CLABSI, but from a nursing standpoint, we are still trying to follow those same guidelines. There's not this glaring difference to the way that things are done in the CCU versus the CICU. It's just a different style of kid at that point in time. We're still trying to figure out what makes them tick.
Right. It's excellent.
That's excellent. Perfect.
We always get such great material. I'll tell you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.